This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, everybody. I'm Carissa and starting our support group. I had a game set aside to play today, so we can share that. Let's see if sharing. Can you see, guys? Can you see my computer?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, has anybody heard of Apples to Apples or the Cards Against Humanity? Yeah.
No.
No? Okay. Well, the way the game works is I'll put something on the slide and you have to usually you have like different cards and you try to match up with the saying on the board. But for this one, I'm just going to have you guys put a saying to match with what's on the board and you can chat me directly and then we'll read them out loud and we'll vote and we'll have somebody vote on the best one. So I'm going to assign somebody to vote. So who actually does anybody want to be the voter and not submit an answer
I could
for
be,
this
what
first
you
one?
mean to be the voter? What do you do?
So basically I'm going to have here on the slide a card and it's going to read and basically people have to write their reactions to the card. Have to fill in like either fill in the blank or finish the sentence
Mm-hmm.
and you get to pick which one you think has you get to pick who has the best answer.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. So and if you guys could message them to me privately so we could do so it's anonymous. I'll read them out loud. Okay. So if I had a superpower, it would be and then just message me in the chat.
Then how will I see it?
I'm gonna read them out loud and then you're gonna vote.
Oh,
Vote.
I got you. I got you. Okay.
Oh, that's not working out good.
Okay, I'm waiting for Andre and Alexis.
So when it says chat, I typed in, it says everyone. So I don't know how I don't know how to manipulate this.
I guess it
So
should
it's if
go
you
to
check the
Clarissa.
two at the bottom before you enter your message, you should have a drop down.
To people or no? Uh,
Yeah.
You see where it says everyone? And it's a little drop down, it's a little arrow there. Click on that, and you should see the names pop up.
at the bottom. Yeah.
And then click on Clarissa's name.
Okay. Okay. Um,
Okay, I'm just waiting on Andre's answer.
His would be, I would be a chicken.
I would be
Unlimited chicken wings.
I think Andre gone.
Andre, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, I got it. Okay. So I'm going to read them. If I had a superpower, it would be changing the weather. If I had a superpower, it would be time travel. Or if I had a superpower, it would be the power to heal.
I would say power to heal.
Oh, Andre got that. All right, Andre, do you want it since you won that one? Do you want to pick the next one?
Is there a man? How do I pick the next one? Is there a
So you get to vote on who has the best answer.
Okay, y'all vote.
Okay. So I'm gonna says RMC took blank, but it will not take. Okay. So Andre, you ready? I'm gonna read them.
I'm ready.
RMC took my son, but it will not take my pride. RMC took my friends, but will not take my memories. RMC took Micah, but it will not take love. I like all these. You have a hard choice, Andre.
I like them all. I'm gonna go with friends and memories.
Ah, Alexa. Alexa, do you want to vote for the next one?
Sure, be happy to.
Okay. I'm grateful for. Okay, Andre, I'm just waiting for yours. Oh, got it. Okay. So I'm grateful for my RMC family. I'm grateful for Richie. I'm grateful for Chris Johnson Foundation and that's RMC support group.
So I'm going to say that all of those are basically the same because we wouldn't have the group without Richie. We wouldn't have the Chris C.J. Johnson Foundation. So technically, it's got to be I'm grateful for Richie because through Richie, all of this was possible. So that's my answer.
All right. Milton.
Yes.
So you got that one. Do you want to be the one next to vote?
Sure.
Okay.
So if I vote, I don't have to. Do I still give a response, or it doesn't make? No, never mind. Okay.
When I beat RMC, I'm going to. All right. When I beat RMC, I'm going to shout from the rooftop. When I beat RMC, I'm going to literally beat it up with a sledgehammer. When I beat RMC, I'm going to fight as best as I can so no one will lose the battle with RMC.
I would go with the last one.
All right, Andre. So that was it for what we had for the
Okay.
games. So is any let's go around and see what's on people's mind, and let me stop sharing. Okay, there we go. So Andre. Oh, Andre, I like the goatee going.
Oh yeah. Hold on, y'all. Look.
Oh, look at the hair. Nice. Do you have anything on your mind, Andre?
I don't have anything on my mind. I'm just happy to see everyone. It's good to see you, Milton,
Thank you.
and everybody. It's just good to be here, see everybody's face. This is what I look forward to. I look forward to this group every month, so I hope everybody's doing well.
Can't see your whole face, Andrea. Is it just my computer? There we go. Ooh wee!
Yeah,
Look at that hair.
it's a lot going on up there.
Milton, is there anything on your mind that you wanted to share?
Um, it, it could be a lot or nothing. I I'll leave it up to Richie to expose me for anything. Um, because it was her prompting that got me here. But I'll see where it goes. But um, I didn't come here with an agenda or anything to think of currently. I'll just gauge the flow of how things are going and then chime in when something comes up that piques my interest.
Okay.
Can you tell them what you're doing now?
See, um, I'm still what I'm doing now is basically continuing the fight that um, um, I'm finishing the fight for it that I was going through with Micah. Um, one thing I said that his passing would not be the end of what I want to do. The best way I could put it is um, I'm not. I'm trying to do things to try to make a difference in bringing awareness to RMC through legislation, and it's been uh, it's been a rough, interesting journey so far. It started when um, back in Richie when we came up with that letter, which was to write to congresspersons, and it was been well, I think it was in March of 2021, and it's just that I went on a journey. Partially, what overall what my journey is about was that Micah he has impacted everyone who he came in contact with, the staff from the hospital. Um, when he passed, I heard that that a number of the nurses on the floor had to go to grief counseling, and he was just a special young man. And I had a special son, and even up to the end, he fought through it. I mean, physically fought trying to get me to take him out of the bed to go home and so on. So it wasn't until even the last 24 hours of his life, he was still fighting. He wouldn't accept defeat. And with that said, I have to continue um, fighting for him um, and letting everyone know about who he was, the people that didn't know him, the people that um, didn't have the opportunity to understand how special he was as a human being, how loving and kind he was. So, with that said, it's a matter of me understanding more about RMC itself, and um, with what he went through, I have to continue for him. And so, upon his passing, it's been my life mission, because without it, there is nothing else I can personally bring value to my life. And he's given me so much joy in the 20 years or 21 years of his life, um, that the only way I could give back is to help others. And so, with that said, I've been um, working on trying to inform the public school system, because I used to coach in New York City, and for my just about my 27 years, and I noticed that they actually have, on the medical forms, that the coaches, the medical form itself, the new form has a check off marker on it. So if you have um, sickle cell trait or anemia, but as a coach, we'll get the form, and no one looks at it. They'll only look at it to see that there's a stamp by a doctor or a nurse and it's signed, and that's all that's required. So there's an opportunity for them to really gather information and also to spread awareness of it. So Richie and I met with um, Dr. Tamia Austin from the As One Foundation to draft a letter um, that I could present to the school board and get that done, because uh, on the high school level, we do know that in the armed forces and also in NCAA Division One, Division Two, they're screening for sickle cell trait. But on the high school level, when potentially the RMC might start forming, there is no screening or education that goes on, and they are currently on average about, well, close to between 8 and 10,000 high schoolers per year in the public school athletic league, and no one knows about it. And as a coach, I do know that um, there are some coaches who really stress the kids out based on their ignorance and pushing them to their limits and beyond, and that could trigger an episode that might lead to um, them developing RMC. So that education piece is one of the things I want to do, and along with that, I had the congressperson that I had written in back in March. They didn't respond. As a matter of fact, they filed a letter away, and it was just through someone else who runs for my local district, who I mentioned about my son in November, who's running for in my city, and I asked them, what can you do for me? Because what's going to separate you from everyone else? And then I mentioned that congressperson, and um, they reached out to him, and then a congressman um, apologized. The staff apologized for not paying attention, and then they offered help, and I brought Richie on board, and they ignored us still, in a sense, dragging their feet, and the term is like kind of ghost us, ghost me. So I didn't stop there. So currently, um, it was just coincidentally that I had to deal with a lot of things. First of all, with Micah's passing, I went to therapy. I have a therapist I'm working on because working with me, and I've done had tremendous progress, and I've come like it's a 180-degree turn from where I was heading, um, based on it. So he helped me understand the grief that I was going through, and this is struggling sometimes with Micah's sister, who's 3 years younger. Oh, I mean older, and she um, is trying to manage on her own, and she can't. But that's a challenge. And along with that, I've lost after Micah, it was a close friend who was going to help me. Her son passed away from a head injury in an car automobile accident. And January, I lost my sister to COVID, and then last week, I lost Memorial Day. I lost my sister-in-law to pancreatic cancer. So um, the therapy was almost like unbelievable in that I've suffered all these losses, but it was my desire to still help um, uh, with the RMC mission that I have, that's got me through all of this. And so that's where I am right now. And and it's funny when I was down there before she passed, I saw my sister-in-law because I knew she actually had the cancer before Micah was diagnosed and after. So and prior to me learning about RMC, the my understanding was pancreatic cancer was the most aggressive cancer there out there until I learned about RMC. So she held on, but is when I was down there seeing her a week before she passed that I just Googled some information. I actually that Sunday I spoke with Cora Connor for the first time since I began this journey, and she gave me some information. But that's when I realized that South Carolina has a law in place about you know, the a registry for newborns with sickle cell trait. And I said, "Oh, this is interesting." And some reason when I was down there, I said, "Well, let me check my home state, New Jersey." And then I discovered that they have a bill that's been floating around since 2014 that is even it almost it's even better. Well, it does everything that Richie and I had crafted in that letter as far as of like developing a registry for sickle cell trait and also education up until age 18 or monitoring the child so it's following tracking the child. And so we're in the process of trying to tweak that. But then today I discovered that it's been kicking around since 2014, and I told Richie, hey, I discovered that it's already in Jersey, and turns out that it's not because which I discovered today when I shot Richie a text and said, I didn't do a deep enough dive into it because there's another PDF. One is a link because it comes up every year in the sessions of the legislature that right now it's because of budget estimate. So it isn't the legislation part; it's the budgeting part. And so the challenge that they face is not only establishing the registry but maintaining it annually. And their projecting is that there's in actuality, first it was 2,000 new cases per year for newborns in Jersey. And then now the recent one, which is in February of 2022, this February, I believe it's now over 2,100. So it's going up as far as newborns with sickle cell trait in New Jersey. Then they're concerned is maintaining the registry, but they were expecting a budget request or something. I have to look into it. It wasn't the legislature, it was the executive branch. So now I discovered that it's the governor and his office that is holding up the budget line of what I'm going to look into it. So, um, with that said, I'm trying to rally different state legislatures that's not in my district, and including those that was in the district, Southern Jersey, where Micah went to school. And the whole objective of it is when I was telling Richie, I said when we thought it passed, I said from 2016, it's now 12,000 kids in New Jersey. And I said, well, wait a minute. What about the ones from 2001 to 2006 and 15, which is in Micah's age group? And so you're talking about these kids are now preteen and early teens in teenage years. That's not in this in their um, writing of this law. And now I know that so then now they're approximately um, roughly based on those numbers, over 42,000 children that um, statistically are in Jersey from 2001, I'm estimating, that have the sickle cell trait. There probably is more, but just that alone, and there's no way educational or public service announcement to get that to get the information out. So eh, it's like um, if anyone remember Jaws and when the captain saw the shark name, I think it was Bruce, or whatever, and one of them said, "We need a bigger boat." So that's where I am now. It's like I discovered something, but now there's more work to be done. But I'm up to the challenge. So
Milton, I have a question if you don't
yeah,
mind.
sure.
So, when you're talking about the funding, and I get it, I get that states only have so much funding and so much for public health. I would be curious about if a university, as part of a master's of public health, because they do that type of stuff, if they could potentially contract out, or a university could be given the authority to research, have the registry, and it could be a project for their students. I'm curious if that's an option.
Well, that could be. I'll be curious too because I just discovered it like about like 4 hours ago.
Hmm.
But what they do have is like projection, how much it will cost. I think they started with um, I have to look at it again, but I should
Hmm.
have printed it out. But the first year, and it went up incrementally. Is I think like year three was like 600,000 that they would need to maintain the registry, and part of what they were saying is that in what I skimmed through is that they already had challenges with trying to. Um, there's another disease that came up or a birth defect, and there are 11,000 children in Jersey, and they had challenges. A staff of I think 6 people, and they had trouble even maintaining that. So it's almost
Hmm.
as if there's not enough manpower or they're overwhelmed by it, but it still comes down to a budget item. And so, trust me, they have money. They actually do have the money, but I think still comes down to whether the governor or his staff has even had we'll have to adjust the budget. But that's an idea. The only other thing they're concerned where it wouldn't be maintaining the registry is I think whether it be a violation, privacy violation. That's why it's going to maintain in governmental hands, I suppose, because they do have if any names are given out, there's $1,000 fine to that person. So it still is some work, and Richie, she's working on tweaking it a little bit. So there is time
Hmm.
to tweak it to add the piece as far as the educational part. So it isn't really like looking for an answer for a cure because I said it's beyond my scope. But I personally feel and this is why it's important, is that when I went down to Florida it was in March, and throughout most of yeah, since Micah and his sister, all of his siblings, when I took him to the pediatrician, they did blood work and so on. So they did that for Micah. So I always did that periodically, and since he lived with his mother and he started going to high school and wanted to participate in sports, he had to have a physical. So that was done in the blood work. So his lab report, I don't know how I when he was going to college, I took that down to Florida with me, and I left it there because I wasn't expecting to be back in Jersey. So I went down in February to try to retrieve some of his items. I said, what was at the house down there? And while I was there, I found his lab reports from when he was 16 and 17, and there were red flags all over the one when he was 17, and compared to 16, which would indicate, and what they indicate when I looked up what the reading was, that there was an issue with his kidneys. It was there, that it was already there, and so um, what I'm trying to do, my piece, is to tweak it, and then I want to be able to. I'm reaching out to the creator, one of the sponsors of the bill, and reaching out. I said that we need to find out, well, how did it came up with this? Who was the person who had RMC? Obviously, someone must have had it to have such a well written bill. One of the sponsors, he has definitely has a medical degree. He's a assemblyman in near Princeton area, and he has matter of fact, he has a degree from Princeton, a medical degree from Princeton. And another co-sponsor is a well-noted coach in Jersey. So they have the right people are in place to create this. And so we just want to add the other piece to it. But now there still is a need for other, rather than rather than just it be done through the government. Yes, like I said, there should be some involvement with universities and so on, and whatever budget or other organizations to get the word out to I said roughly, this is my estimate, 42,000 youngsters, because in that group I do know that there was Micah, and then prior to Micah there was someone in Jersey City that passed. So then there are other young men and young women in just in New Jersey that might have sickle cell, well have sickle cell trait, but might have renal medullary carcinoma that we don't know about, or are starting to develop the early stages of it. So with what I know from Micah's blood work, and I feel that if what I'm doing was done at an earlier on, or what they came up with, because as a high school coach and just in my many years, and just as a conscientious parent, anything my kids had, I was rushing to the pediatrician's office. So if I had known the existence of the only thing when he was born, of course, that most of us get, is that at birth, yes, they tell us that they have sickle cell trait, and the next thing they say is, "Don't worry about it, you'll be okay. Just worry about who he or she decides to have a family with," and that's all we knew. So the education piece is extremely important. Tracking these kids and informing the parents of this is important. But my point is that if the what I'm trying to do was in place, and even the education piece, his pediatrician would have said, "Wait a minute, I'm looking at two within the same time, within a 12-month period, there's a drastic change in some of his numbers. And the tragic part in his thing was that his old pediatrician, who was a one doctor office, sold his practice. So the people who are now looking at his blood work, it was bought by a big hospital. They're buying up all the private practices of these old um, doctors who were retiring, and that's how they grew. But in interim, the care and the conscientiousness wasn't there, and so I'm sure that his old doctor, Dr. Nathan, um, would have seen it because anything that he saw on Micah's blood work or whatever, we discussed it, but it wasn't done. So there's um, failures, unknown failures along the way, and this law, if it goes into effect, and I'm pushing to have it go into effect and pass, um, it will make a difference, and that'll be a major step in accomplishing the goal that I have. Because after that, everything ties into the city, Patterson, New Jersey, where Micah was born, and the pediatrician's office is. Because the one of the sponsors of the bill happens to uh, be in Patterson. And Patterson, New Jersey, I told Richie back in 2019, they were commended for their COVID tracking, COVID tracing. So they were one of the first, the earliest cities in the United States to do that. So their Commissioner of Health, I have full confidence that this established, that could be a model for the rest of the country to see if it's done. So there's a lot at stake, and it was just by that. And for my part, I want to be able to speak before the full body of the legislature because it'll be like a victim's impact statement because not only be me, but Micah's schoolmates. And I want them to see because it's difficult. It's different than you see something on paper and no one will understand it, as opposed to, yes, it's not on paper, but what happened to my child could have been prevented if this was in place. And I want them to see that it's a human being, not just um, paper and ink on it, and they can't imagine what will happen. So Mike is the worst case scenario of what would happen if sickle cell trait tracking and registry is not being done, and the monitoring of these children as they age and so on. So it's all there, but I feel I'm trying to set everything up so that I can make a statement. I'm echoing somewhere, but I can make a statement to the senators in New Jersey and the assembly persons. It takes a 75% majority vote, and it doesn't even need the governor's signature. But with what I learned today, then I'm going to reach out now to the executive branch and say, hey, um, we need to figure this out. And that's my push right now. So that's what I've been doing. It's been a long time, but talking about it, but I feel um, it's important. It's not just I lost my child, but what I've gone through and what all of us have gone through that have lost someone. Um, it's an unbearable pain that won't go away. And I'm trying my best to make sure if I could reduce the number of parents that lose a child or lose a father or someone who matters to them, then that's my role in life, and I have nothing else to do with my life but just this. Yeah, I'm done.
Thank you, Milton. Man, you make a lot of progress, and
Yeah,
yeah, I'm just interested, like just talking to you before, and I know because I know talking to you before and now talking now, it's just interesting, like the budget aspect and that this was in place like years ago, and there's a whole. So I'm excited to hear like the next steps on
yeah. I'll see what happens, but it's a road that like I said, I was built for this. So I'm going to push forward. It's all I can do right now.
Yeah. All right. So we have a bunch of people that just joined. So, hey, Brian. Hi, Maka. Is it Davon? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, it's Davon. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Davon.
All right.
Hi, this is my first time in this group. I got in contact, or I didn't get in contact, but I found out about this group through Richie Johnson.
Yes.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Johnson.
Hi. How you doing?
I feel like I came in on the tail end of what you were saying, Milton. So I apologize that I didn't
It's,
get the
it's quite
entirety
all
of what
right.
you were saying. But just to make sure that I was in the right place, I wanted to ask, this is the Zoom meeting for the renal medullary carcinoma group, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
it is.
meet all of you.
Yeah.
Hi,
Uh,
Karen. Oh, I'm sorry, Davon. I cut you off. What were you saying?
no, you're fine. I'm not the only one here who's new. I'd like to see everybody else who's here.
So we're going right now. We're just going around, asking if anybody wants to share or any questions anybody has. So, Davon, do you have any questions or anything you want to share?
I have a whole story I'd love to tell you all. Um, so my grandfather a year ago was diagnosed with RMC. He's
Mm.
been battling RMC now for a pretty long while now. My grandmother also has cancer. It's not RMC, but a different type of lung cancer. But my pop is currently right now in treatment for MD Anderson, and he's told me that he believes he's either the first oldest or the second oldest person with RMC, and that apparently right now whatever they're doing to my pop right now is leading the way or pioneering for how RMC is treated and how it's currently gonna help other people out. I wanted to join this chat because Miss Johnson, I saw your news broadcast on Good Morning America where
Yes.
they spoke about your son, I believe, and I didn't know where else to turn to. My pop has had his lows because of this cancer, but he's also had his highs as well. He recently just left a rehabilitation facility and is on his way to, I don't want to say making a full recovery, but he looks good. Like, if you could see some of the old photos, because I have some of what my pop used to look like compared to what he's going through right now, completely different person. My pop is a very strong person, a very loud and booming voice, and this cancer really took that away from him. And it got to a point to where we didn't know if we were going to get it back. But I don't know what they're doing at MD Anderson, but the mindset or the attitude that he's established towards it is that he wants to live. Very family oriented man. He's a beacon of light and hope for the rest of my family and the people around me. And it's crazy. It's just crazy how he went from how much that cancer diminished him to now he's on his way to wanting to live. He'll tell you all the time, I want to live. I want to do what it is that's necessary. So if not for myself, maybe the people around me, they'll look at me, they'll be happy, they'll know that I'm doing what it is that I can to make sure I can be there for my family. I wanted to come to you guys because you're trying to spread awareness. Well, I feel like my pop is the beacon for what awareness could look like.
Okay.
That is wonderful. Where do you live, or where does your grandfather live?
So I live in the Katy area. My grandfather and my grandparents, both of them live around 20, 25 minutes away from me in Alief. We're about a 30-minute drive from the MD Anderson downtown off of Holcomb Boulevard. Uh, my pop's main doctor is Dr. Masul. I don't know if any one of you know who Dr. Masul is, but he's like the leading doctor in RMC. And yeah, we're a little spread out. The majority of our family is back up east in Jersey, but we have a few soldiers on the ground.
Oh,
But
we're
yeah,
in
all of us
Jersey.
mainly stay. So up east, my main family, it's a lot. We're like we got a bunch of family up there. So I believe we have some family out in Colonia, other family out in East Orange. It's all over the place.
Okay. Yeah, me and Milton are from New Jersey. So,
All right, on that.
yeah.
And I'm right in Sugarland. Where have you been all this time?
I don't. Like I said, I only found about you guys literally just I want to say 2 days ago.
Wow.
The internet is a really crazy place. I just decided to look up RMC off the internet, and I found all of your information. Well, your information, Miss Johnson. I found you on Facebook.
Wonderful. Well, we're happy to have you, and then I'll get in contact with you in the chat. I'll give you my cell number.
Please and thank you. I'd love to have it.
Sure.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing, Devon. Maka, how are you doing?
Hi everyone. I've been better. I am here. Still dealing with pain and in the midst of switching doctors. And still trying to get into MD Anderson through the trial process. So I'm kind of still looking for some wins. I haven't had a win in a while. The cancer has grown a little bit. So I am switching to my third line of treatment right now as we wait to see what happens with the trial approval.
Anything you want to talk about, Amaka? Or anything,
Um,
or questions?
oh, I'm curious, Brian. I'm always curious about what's going on with you and the trial. I'm sure I missed it, but if you don't mind repeating how that is going for you.
So far the trial's going okay. I haven't had any bad reactions since the last time. They ended up reducing my dose on the trial drug because I've dropped some weight. So ever since they reduced the dosage, I've been okay with the trial medication so far. I'm supposed to be getting scans probably in the next couple weeks since I had radiation back in April. And I guess they'll know from there how well the radiation did, and I guess where to go from there.
Okay. Thank you for sharing.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get onto that trial, Brian, but there's another one that is immunotherapy based that is supposed to start in September, but I think Dr. Masal told my doctor that they may be pushing it up to July.
Okay.
Brian, is there anything you want to share or any questions you have?
Talk about your skin. Want to talk about your last skin? They don't know about your last skin.
Oh, um, everything so far, everything's going okay. On my last scans, they found something in one of my lungs. Is like something popped up, but they don't really know if it's cancer for sure. They're just gonna monitor it, and they said if it turns out to start growing, they can always use radiation to get rid of it. As far as everything else seems to be going well. My labs have been pretty good so far. The last time I had labs, it looked pretty good. So overall everything's not looking bad right now. So.
Let them know you're nice. No, I'm just you're too sexy. So he's ready to show
But everything's going well. So.
Brian, can we know the dog's name?
My dog's name is Ayane. She's yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Sorry, I just got home from work. I'm like exhausted, and I heard him talking, and I was like, "Oh, you're like, tell them to," and he's like, "Do you want to talk?"
He know you like talking to Nessa. Come on and introduce yourself. We have some new people.
Hi. Oh, I'm just seeing that. Hello, I'm Anessa. I'm Brian's better half. And no, I'm just kidding. I'm
Yeah.
No, I'm Brian's wife, and yeah, it's nice to meet you. New faces, new people.
Hey Anna, just saw you. Just see you.
Hi everybody, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm unfortunately unable to see everybody because I'm driving, but I'm doing good.
Anna, is there anything you want to share or any questions you have?
No, I don't have anything right now. Thank you.
Anna, do you want to let them know that you're working now?
Yes, I started work the 1st of June, so this is now the 3rd week. And I'm really happy to be back at work and happy to see my patients. It feels good. It's much better to be on this side than to be a patient, but I have an appointment with my oncologist next Monday and a CAT scan sometime probably next week. So I'm hoping things still look good.
Yes, cross some fingers.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hey Karen, is there anything you wanted to discuss or have any questions? Karen?
Oh no, I thought you were still talking to Anna. No, I'm good. I'm still taking my chemo pills that Dr. Turner prescribed. I go back next month for scans. So they're just monitoring a spot that they found on my shoulder. But other than that, I feel good. I'm sometimes tired, but it's the summertime and it's Texas, so that could be the heat. But other than that, I'm good. And I saw Richie the other week at a graduation party, so that was nice.
It was great to
Karen,
see you, Karen. You look great.
Thank you.
Karen, you mentioned you're on chemo pills. I'm switching to that starting tomorrow. Which one are you taking?
I think it's pronounced, or it starts with an E. It's Erla.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm taking.
So,
Yeah,
do
any advice?
yeah. So, depending on, like, I take 100 milligrams. They started me off on 150. That was kind of too much for me. And I got a bad rash. I'm still dealing with the rash. So, that's been an ongoing thing. I've kind of gotten it under control with creams. They prescribed some creams. They also prescribed some pills for me to take as well. I didn't really take the pills because I was going from constipation to diarrhea. So I was like, that's not cool. So we have to just pick one. and but the cream has been working. But yeah, I did have a rash, and it took maybe a week for it to start to appear. So just beware that'll probably happen.
Or was that erlotinib?
Yeah.
Erlotinib?
Yes.
Okay. Oh yeah, I know Carlos had that too. Like he had a bad rash on his face and his back.
Yeah. It's like on your on your face, on your chest and your back. So You might just want to ask them to, you know, kind of hedge it off if you see the dermatologist, you know, that's coming, or ask your doctors what they can prescribe. Like I said, there's a I guess an antibiotic pill you can take, which I have, which I didn't really take because that's what it was making me constipated. But they also prescribed me cream, and so I go to the dermatologist next week for her to kind of check me out. So they're monitoring me on that as well. And the only other side effects are like fatigue.
Mhm.
So that's a side effect, and you know, on and off, you could have some diarrhea as a result.
That sounds
Kind of
so
just,
good.
but you know, just watch your food, like any kind of fibrous food. Just kind of know that might happen. I know for me, sugar, when I first started, sugar was a trigger. So like, I kind of had to stay away from sugar. I kind of still stay away from it. I just kind of eat it in moderation. So.
Okay. Um, Carissa, did he also get rashes on the face too?
Yeah, he had rashes on his face too.
Uh,
But he had taken the cream, like the the cream as well. I don't know, but
You can also get like a gentle face cleanser, because what I did, I actually got proactive, but you don't have to get proactive because that's more for acne. But the
mhm.
dermatologist said like a gentle face cleanser, and that's helped because it was really bad on my face. But I just used the cleanser, and I just keep myself moisturized and hydrated, and make sure you like wear sunscreen and stuff. Just not don't let the sun get on your face, and
Okay.
just um, make sure you just stay hydrated and clean your face. And I don't know, like for me, and I also kind of got irritated on my scalp, so I just got some tea tree
Oh,
conditioner spray, and I spray that in my hair and just wash it with some Head and Shoulders. So that was my the irritation on my scalp was worse than anything because it was um, just kind of inconvenient. But yeah, just
okay.
beware.
All right. I appreciate it.
okay. Well, thank you, Karen, for sharing. Um, Alexa, is there anything you wanted to discuss or any questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to say really briefly that at ANCAN and at other nonprofits, we're seeing suicide rates go up. And I wanted to post in the chat a list of resources that we have. And please reach out if you're having any issues. This is a very stressful time right now, and there's people right now who are willing and ready to talk to you. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thanks, Carissa.
Thanks, Alexa. Richie, is there any questions or anything you wanted to share?
No, I think I've recovered from the shingles. So everything is going well. I've been working with Milton, staying busy, trying to get this legislature done. I think Milton just failed to tell you too that the library, they set up, Milton, you better than I am, a book deposit thing. How was it? In honor of uh, Micah. Micah, I just had one opportunity to talk to Micah, and he won my heart immediately. He was just such an intelligent young man, that was just so educated about his disease process. And I just think Milton is being a little shy and not saying everything. And I mean, we know sometimes you don't want to brag too much, but he was a beautiful young man and so well respected in the community. And I just wanted to share that. Um, you're muted, Milton.
You're
Yeah,
still
okay. I must have clicked it, but yeah, he surprised me. Well, he actually surprised a lot of the doctors because he actually in the ER he knew more about what was going on with himself than the ER doctors. It was amazing. Yeah, he kept logs and diaries, and uh, chronicle his condition, videotapes, um, anything to work. He was into making sure his brain functioned correctly and a lot of things. But what happened is that um, his schoolmates who took it hard because even he never. They were all shocked because he and it got me a little upset once I heard in that, but it was my son. He actually kept him so calm and downplayed his cancer, and um, they all he felt, and he made him. We all felt he and I felt that he was going to beat this, but this one wasn't meant to be. But he kept his friends even in the dark, and so what um, Mora, one of his best friends. He had a lot of friends. Her mother, they live in Camden, New Jersey, so the public library in Camden closed because of COVID. So there is, I think it's called Green Book. I'm not certain because there's an app for it where it's all over the country where you have these small mini libraries. It's about the size of a square, like a mailbox, post box, and they're registered in serial numbers. So they had one built, and he has his own library there, and it really helped the community because Michael was an avid reader. So they said that they had to get a bigger one put next to it. So there's two of them now because the community actually did not have any a library in this. There are no libraries in Camden, and so they're flocking to Micah's little library, and now the main library are donating books on a regular basis because the people don't return them. But it's amazing that it's filling the void. And I'm also working on a project. He had a stuffed killer whale, which I bought from his SeaWorld when he was 3 years old, and he actually passed away clinging to it. So I'm making a story about Micah and his killer whale named Chucky. So um, doing that, and I found out his classmates wants to get involved in that. So see what happens with that. But the library is something I'm very pleased with. Very touching ceremony, and to see it there brought me to tears. And I'm with what I'm trying to do is they're going to advocate for him because they're um, the next generation, and he's impacted those who knew him and his high school page because he wasn't an athlete. He was just an ordinary kid, but it meant a lot. And just like I found out, he was financing a lot of the students' lunches. When they had the money to go to Micah, he'll buy them lunch. And when we had the GoFundMe account, they paid it forward and even donated, which I was surprised. And it's just different things I'm learning about my son. I didn't know. It's almost like another life I never knew. And so part of my journey is learning about him and who he was. I knew him just as my son, but he was much much more. And it's a ongoing discovery about him, which it brings me to tears, but at the same time, I'm so happy that I have the moments to try to discover more about my child. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, he has a low library in Camden, New Jersey. So yeah.
Think that's great. Clarissa, if you don't mind, I would just like to circle back to Devon, see if we can get more information regarding his grandfather and how can we help.
Hi everyone again. Thank you for extending the invitation to speak. Uh, I could talk you guys' head off about my grandfather all day, but nobody will tell you more about him than he would. My grandfather loves to talk. If I could, I'd love to be able to hop back in this Zoom meeting maybe another time and have him alongside so that way he could speak with you guys and share his story. But my grandfather is 68 years old. Um, he also was born inside of New Jersey, but he's been around all over the place. His fight with cancer sounds very similar to a lot of the stories that I've heard inside the group chat already. We had the phase where he did develop a rash on his chest. His bowel movements were inconsistent, because I don't know if it was because of the therapy or whatever treatment that they were giving him. Um, the bouts of depression have been something that I've been looking for. My pop is very strong, because he knows he's basically the foundation for our family. He'll try to put it to the side or really not acknowledge his own mental issues. But I definitely know that they're there, but just for the pure sake of his family, it's rare that I get a glimpse of it. But my grandfather is currently right now just overwhelmed with a lot of the things that he wants to do that he just can't at this moment. Along with his RMC, he has pre-existing heart conditions, pre-existing heart issues. Old age is affecting him to where he just is not able to muster the strength to do different activities like how he used to. Mentally, he's motivated enough, but physically, it's just a challenge. Primarily, where I see a really big issue with him is having a proper diet. The 30 days that he spent at a rehabilitation facility after he was discharged from the hospital, the nurses there basically put him on a daily routine. You're going to wake up at this time, you're going to eat at this time, you're going to work out at this time, and go to bed at this time. That schedule did wonders for him for the 30 days that he's there, and I really did see the life come back from my pop. But when he was discharged from that facility, transitioning back home became kind of almost an uphill battle for him. He wanted to implement some of the routines that the facility had for him, but it's easier to do that when you have nurses and practitioners and nutritionists who are around you 24/7 that are right behind you supporting you. My pop support system is really, if I'm being honest with you, limited to just myself. It's basically just me. As I told you guys, the majority of my family lives in Jersey. As far as getting him to appointments, picking up maybe some meds for him, doing a bit of grocery shopping, that's where I come in. But as far as that day-to-day care, making sure that you're working out, making sure that you're exercising, and most big of all, we plan on moving him back to Jersey so that way he can be with the rest of our family. But it's hard for him to pick things up. He doesn't have the strength. So moving is difficult. Putting things in the boxes is difficult. And just it's gotten to the point to where both him and my grandmother are just overwhelmed with the amount of things going on inside of the house to where it they just can't function. My pop is doing the best that he can, but physically he's just not what he once was. The upside is that I see my pop developing. He's slowly but surely trying to drive again, although I'm scared for him. Uh, Being able to supply his own groceries. He's always been like the caretaker for my grandmother, so he'll cook, he'll clean what it is that he can. But it's just I feel for him, and I want him to just solely focus on recovery rather than feeling like he has to step back into the role of doing everything for everybody else. Um, I wanted to ask any of you if you had any advice. Um, I'm sure a lot of you maybe are familiar with the different types of medication or different things that the doctors are recommending you to do in order to recover. Was there anything outside of medication that anybody could recommend maybe my pop doing? Um, a certain form of coffee that everybody likes to drink that just seems to make everybody happier or motivated to do something? I'm willing to hear anything.
Well, I know for Carlos, like if he's dealing with pain, like he did acupuncture and like medical massages, that helped a lot. Um, so if like your grandpa's dealing with pain, I could say that that's like one good thing. on that.
Yeah, pain is definitely something that he complains about, mostly in his back. But I don't know if that's tied to the RMC or if that's just old age. But if you ask my pop, the thing that he'll probably want the most is just a new body. Like he tells me that all the time. Yeah, unless they're selling a new body, and it's not really much you could do on that end.
So,
Well, he can get massages, as Clarissa had mentioned, and maybe even physical therapy may help him, stretch his muscles and things like that, and sometimes feel a lot better.
Yeah, and
Another question I want. Oh, I'm
sorry,
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I take vitamin D and vitamin B12, like daily, and that's helped. And there's a book called Eat, Beat Disease that you can probably buy. It's written by a doctor, and they suggest food that you can eat. And I've kind of lived by that as well, like green apples and yogurt and things like that that have probiotics in them.
Okay, he loves fruit too, so that's right up his alley.
Did you say
That's
he's
great.
being treated at MD Anderson?
MD Anderson, yes, the downtown one that's
Yes.
off of Holcomb Boulevard.
Yes, that's the main one. So they have a phenomenal palliative care program, and they also have one of the best cancer fatigue clinics where they can help with energy and getting better sleep. And palliative care can also help with a lot of stuff. Usually you don't need a referral, but if you just ask the oncologist to put a referral in, insurance covers it. It's a great resource there at MD Anderson.
Thank you. I One more thing that I wanted to share with the group as well. Kind of what you said. I've been trying to speak with different case managers, maybe or social workers who could help out. Offer any resources that they can, kind of help out around the house for my grandparents. Um, I can't really talk about my grandfather without talking about my grandmother. I feel like their health is uniquely tied in with each other. Although my grandmother is on her way to almost making a full recovery from her own form of lung cancer, mentally, I feel as though my grandmother has given up. This is where a really big talk I wanted to have with you all is just about mental health and depression. I definitely feel like I'm not a psychologist, but just from what I've seen and heard from my grandmother, I can definitely surmise that she's heavily depressed, to the point to where she's basically given up on herself, despite the fact that all of her doctors and nurses are telling you you're on your way to making a full recovery. Like her cancer is went from almost stage 4 to basically starting to enter a remission phase. It's completely halted, but is now starting to enter its remission phase. However, you can do all the treatments for your cancer that you want. You could take whatever medicines that they'd give you. You could do all the radiation, all of that. But where I saw my Mimi just not give any effort was when she got back home. Completely neglecting her diet, completely neglecting any sort of physical effort whatsoever. And it's gotten to the point to where now she's just completely shut down. There's three places that you'll see my grandmother. You'll either see her in the bed, you'll see her on the couch, or God forbid the worst one, but it's been happening a lot now. Often you'll see her on the floor. My pop, because he was in the hospital for the past 2 months, heard about these different stories but wasn't there. So for a long time, my Mimi was just alone at the house. And like I told you, it's basically me and him. So with the two of us, I live 30 minutes away. So even if something were to happen, I have to zoom across town to get to my grandmother. When my pop was finally in a better place physically, coming back home to then have to not only take care of themselves, but also my grandmother, very hard for him. So the plan to move back Jersey was a all around solution to fix everybody's case. Family will help take care of my grandfather. Family will also help take care of my grandmother. But my grandmother is definitely hindering my grandfather's ability to not only help himself, but also to help her. Uh, feels like she doesn't want to help herself. She doesn't want to move. She's vocally expressed that, but it's causing a bit of stress on everybody's point, and I don't exactly know what to do or who to turn to.
What I know, like one thing I they talked at MD Anderson was like asking what you do for like what do you do for fun. So maybe like finding out like what your grandma actually does like for fun and just something simple as that and trying to do that.
Shopping, spending
Shopping,
money. Shopping, yes. Yeah.
which
That's the
so
thing
that
though. Like if you guys saw the inside of our house, it's literally already filled with clothes. If we take her shopping and she buys more clothes, they're gonna just fall over. My pop is not gonna have it.
well you could I know like you can sell like stuff on Facebook Marketplace. I know I'm trying to like do that for my stuff and some of my stuff for my dad. I'm selling things, but yeah, I don't know. Like if taking her shopping um or like going to like or I don't know if window shopping might something like might be helpful. Like just and I feel like sometimes like for me, I know like feeling like I feel sad when I don't go outside a lot, and I like um like getting outside and getting out of the house sometimes like is helpful like just taking a walk if that she's able to do that like to no.
It's tough. She should be able to walk, but because she just physically neglected herself for a while, her legs deteriorated to the point to where she needs assistance. She has a wheeler, but to just avoid any extra effort, she basically just stays home. Um, if I could, you're absolutely right. I think I kind of thought of that, but in a different sense. I wanted to get my grandmother going back to church. My grandmother's a huge church lady, very active in the community back in a little while ago, like before she was diagnosed. If I could, I would love to at least every Sunday, once a week. Like let's get my Mimi out the house. Like let's get her to church. Let's get her in an environment where I know she feels comfortable. She opens up to her, and it's something that I feel like will just nurture her spirit, nurture her motivation to want to do something. Because right now, I feel like my pop is just basically piggybacking the best that he can. And my pop is old. His patience is thin. He gets frustrated easily, and I know that it leads to him being loud, and my Mimi thinks that, oh, now you're yelling at me, but he's just passionate about what he's trying to say. It's a lot. It's a lot. um I want to have basically my Mimi overcome whatever mental block is inside her brain, or just whatever it is that's going through, the just, if not for herself, fight for the people around her. Just open your eyes, see that people are here around you that care for you and want the best for you. And I hopefully that'll be enough to motivate her to just do something. Just get up, take her shopping, go to church. Who knows? Just something.
Yeah, I mean start I feel like start small and I feel like just the small things some make a big difference and we forget like we kind of forget how like being outside or it's impact or going to church. Yeah, I know like church helps me out a lot and if I don't go for a while like I feel it that I feel the difference. So like, that I would encourage those things.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll try to talk with my grandmother about it, but she's probably just gonna wave me off.
Maybe yeah, try to maybe bargain with her or something, or maybe say if she goes here, you'll take her shopping, or
I'll try that tactic then. I'll give it a shot. I appreciate all of you listening to me. I know I was kind of rambling on there for a while, but I really do appreciate every ear.
We're here for you. Being a
Thank you.
caregiver is not easy. I can tell you that. It's not easy. It does take time. It takes patience, all the love that you could possibly give. But don't forget, too, to take care of yourself. And that's something that we tend to neglect. It's ourselves.
Hmm.
You're absolutely right. And I once again thank you all. I like I said, I couldn't bring up the issue of my grandfather without bringing up my grandmother. But a lot of the issues that just brings him down is uniquely tied with that. Both of them are just physically not in the best place, but at least with my pop, mentally, he'll tell you all the time he wants to live. Like back when we were first figuring out what even was wrong with him, he was telling me, he was telling the doctors, man, whatever's wrong with me, if there's something in me that they can cut it out, get it out. And even now, he means that. The moment that they find out there's something that they could snip, something that they could do, something that they could alter, whatever you need to do to just make sure that he's in a better place, he's willing to do it. I'm telling you, I love for y'all to be able to just see what my pop looks like now compared to what he used to look like. Cause he'll brag to you all the time. He feels good. He came from a place to where he couldn't walk by himself to where now if you ask him, he'll do a little dance for you. He'll Congo dance, he'll shake for you. And we love it. His voice was once really weak and very meager to now is that booming, passionate, loud, lovable, smooth, silky voice that all of my family just came to love. And yeah, I'd love for y'all to just be able to see it. It's one thing me talking about them, but putting a name or putting a face to the name, completely different. I don't know if any of you all are going through different hardships or similar things to what I've described with my pop, or maybe just mental health in general. But my pop is 68 years old, and all the time he's telling me, I'm going to be here a whole lot longer. He doesn't plan on leaving this earth till I get married, and
Well,
I don't plan on getting married till a little while. So
well,
my pop
Devon,
has
he
energy to
is
hang
still
out.
young. I have to tell you that. He is not an old man.
He's
So he
not.
is
He's
still
not.
young. When
He's
was he
not.
diagnosed? Do you remember?
So my pop was diagnosed about a year ago. So my Mimi, I found out my Mimi had cancer. I want to say March of 2020.
Hmm.
And then a year passed later, and then my pop was diagnosed with his own form of cancer around maybe like early January, February, maybe of 2021. He's been diagnosed for a while now. They were kind of playing all of these like weird different tests trying to figure out what exactly was going on. It wasn't until the later half of the year they even found out what form of cancer it was, which was RMC. After that, I mean, it's just been on and off. I couldn't tell you exactly what the doctors were doing per se. I can only just tell you from a grandson's perspective of just what I physically saw from my grandfather. But he went from being comfortable 170 pounds to the lowest weight I've seen my pop drop to was 123 pounds.
Mm. Wow.
Very, very just diminished, very scrawny, skinny. And he'll tell you all the time, I look like a skeleton. But he's slowly getting his weight back. He's 130 pounds. As I took him to the hospital earlier today, actually, and they weighed him. He's 130. Still small, but he'll look at you and he'll smile because he's like, hey, that's better than what I once was. Uh,
So Devon, I want to say one quick thing to you, and I hope some Milton will chime in here and maybe Richie. Um, because RMC is such a rare disease and difficult to treat, I would recommend you think very, very hard before moving back to Jersey, because you may not find the quality of treatment in Jersey that you have at MD Anderson. I mean, everybody in the country is trying to figure out how to get to MD Anderson if they are diagnosed with RMC. And whilst I understand this issue about family support, and it's really important, I don't know where you're going to get the quality of treatment that your grandpa has right now. I don't know, Milton. I mean, you're a Jersey man. I mean, what would you say about that?
Well, that's a big issue because Micah was treated in New York City and wasn't by someone who knew what RMC and was totally different result. The problem is that yes, MD Anderson and funny enough, there is an MD Anderson in Camden, but it's not. They don't get anything.
Yes.
But
Right.
Houston, he's currently in a facility that is the premier, and anything else um, doesn't even come close. So it's going to be a balance between uh, what's best for his longevity, or and I know being a solo caregiver, it's hard on you. It was hard on me. I was Micah's mother and sister lived in Philadelphia, but throughout the whole thing, it was just he and I, and so I know what you are going through, and you didn't say as much, but I know it's rough on you. However, um, Rick is correct. You know, it should. Um, I'm not saying that you shouldn't make it the right decision for both your grandparents. Um, but as far as care and continued care, then you have to think long and hard about the decision to move back, because chances are you're going to stay in Texas, right? Or right. Well, you
This is
being in
correct. I am
Texas,
going to stay.
and I would say without, and I'm not being disrespectful to any of the other family members, but you're there by yourself. I didn't speak of anyone making a sacrifice to come help you out. So I'm saying that to say is, um, I'm hoping that they have the same dedication that you have to both of your grandparents. But what you're doing speaks volume. And unless you're going to travel with them back to Jersey to make sure that the quality of care that you're giving and that they are receiving is going to be duplicated by the other family members, and you can feel comfortable in leaving them in their care, then that's something you should also consider. And that's all I
Yeah.
can say on that.
I also want to
Well,
say I don't know about the winters up here too. That might be something to consider as well, because like I don't know if they have.
Yeah, it's real cold.
Yeah, like I'm just thinking if you have joint pains and like that could be something, you know, that could be just thinking aggravated. And if they were going to go anywhere like New Jersey, it would be New York City. And New York City is not the easiest place to get into. It's not the most convenient to get into. So that's
yeah,
what.
and Devon, even in New York City, even if you go to Memorial Sloan Kettering, and Rich, you'll correct me on this, I'm sure, if I'm wrong, you're still not going to find the quality of care for RMC. I mean, this that you got at MD Anderson, and you know, I mean, Milton was totally correct and so diplomatic. Um, but really, your family has to think about sending down some help to help you out, because you really don't want to move your parents, your grandparents, given the issue and given the involvement of RMC. I mean, ask Amica. Amica cannot figure out a way to get to MD Anderson. And you know, I think that there's a good reason why so many people on this call are all trying to get their treatment, if not at MD Anderson. They're trying to get the MD Anderson oncologists involved in their treatment because they're so far ahead of everybody else in how to treat RMC. And I'm not sure if you were aware of that or not. It's, it's not like breast cancer or even, or colon cancer or lung cancer. That it's not a dime a dozen in terms of the doctors who know how to treat it.
That is so very true, Rick. And even so, the clinical trials are only at MD Anderson here in Houston, Texas. So
Yeah.
those are a lot of things to keep in mind.
Yeah, I would just and just to add in my other 2 cents in is that one of the challenges or what the obstacle that wasn't even an obstacle because obstacles you could get around, but it was like a brick wall is that Mike is oncologist. I did reach out to MD Anderson and they could not do anything unless that oncologist reached out to them. And his ego was so high, of high opinion of his own self that he never reached out. And that's something that, let me push that aside. That's something that I'm 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 getting attorneys and looking at. So all I'm saying is that if you expect to duplicate the same level of care or expect that it's universal, it is not. And I'm a witness to that. If my child was getting the same level of dedication and care in New York City that he would have gotten an MD Anderson from out the start, there's no doubt in my mind. I don't care what anyone else says. There's no doubt that he would still be here with me. And I know in my heart that that's correct.
Right. And Carissa, who's in the New York area with Carlos, God rest his soul, they bent over backwards to move Carlos from the New York area to MD Anderson, right, Carissa?
Yeah, we used to.
You couldn't find the care at Memorial Sloan Kettering. You had to go down to MD Anderson.
Yeah, we were flying back and forth like every other week just to get his treatments. Um, at some points, I mean, there was some points he did get treatments in New York, but that's because I trusted the doctor and um, she was friends with Dr. Tanier, which works with Dr. Masao. So that was an occasion. But even with that, we'd still go back and forth to MD Anderson and was our main hospital. So I I don't know. It seems like a lot of factors. Like you're already there.
Well, I would just add that if um, someone, whether it's someone in the social services department at MD Anderson, could recommend because it seems like you need help as far as a caregiver because you're 30 minutes away and you're dealing with two grandparents who have different issues, but you need assistance and um, they perhaps they qualify for some Medicare or Medicaid assistance where someone could come in even like to visit them for like a nurse or 4 hours a day or at some periodic point time because then it's not just one, it's dealing with two different individuals. So then something can should be able to work. There should be some resources available to help you, and that's the main thing. Whereas at you should not have to carry this burden by yourself. And that's where I understand going back to New Jersey. At the same time, your grandmother does not want to travel, and I think that your grandfather will want to be around you more so than any of your other relatives. So that's something to consider if you can maintain their health here and your sanity by getting some social services to help you out with them in their care and get them and while as they both recover. there are resources, including mental health facilities or something that could probably assist you with your grandmother, what she's going to, and find ways to um, reinvigorate her without you trying to come up with your own solutions, because you have your plate is full. Your plate is extremely full right now.
Yeah. And I, this is overwhelming. And I, I feel for you because I see how you're pretty amazing, Devon. I mean, I don't know if other people are telling you that, but I'm telling you, and I see a lot of people at ANCAN. So you're doing a phenomenal job, but it's overwhelming. I think that I picked up on something that Alexa said earlier on, and you can reach out to Alexa tomorrow. I'll put her address in the chat window, or to Richie. But she mentioned that there is a very good palliative care group at MD Anderson. Now, palliative care is not end of life. People hear palliative care, oh, that's end of. It's not end of life. It's about quality of life. And very often the palliative care docs are the ones who can make these things happen for you. They can bring in the social worker. They know how to organize the team around the patients to improve their quality of life. And I think if knowing not that much about MD Anderson, that might be my starting point, but Richie may know more, and Alexa may know more as to who you reach out to at MD Anderson to start giving you some help, because I think that's what I would be doing. Richie, do you want to say anything about that?
Yes, what happened was, as far as Chris, is the doctor, Dr. Tanier at the time, referred Chris to palliative care, and they basically treat the symptoms and not the disease. So, and you have every discipline available, and then there are ways that they can, I guess, evaluate the medication that your grandfather is on, to help alleviate some of the pain. But it's a very calming atmosphere. You feel comfortable in talking, and I found that they were really, really essential in Chris's quality of life. So, Dr. Tanier, do you see Zeta as well over at MD Anderson?
Doctor Who?
Okay, Dr. Tanier, is that who's taking care of your grandfather? Dr. Masal.
Dr. Masul, yes.
Dr. Masal. Okay. So then he has a practitioner, and Andre may know who his practitioner is, but they can refer, and I can reach out to Dr. Masal. We have a very good relationship. I can reach out to him and get that ball rolling.
I would appreciate that. I tried to explore the different options, the alternatives, before we ultimately landed on the decision to Jersey. Um, we did try to explore maybe a few resources that the case managers recommended back when he was first discharged, along with social workers. The rehabilitation facility that my pop attended was actually recommended by our case manager. The tough part that, you know, it's it sucks, but it's just money, honestly. Money. A lot of these things, or these different resources, or whatever pools or facilities, just cost too much for what both my grandparents are able to do right now. Both of them are currently living off of Social Security checks, neither
Right.
of which is enough to sustain different, like facilities that they could stay at. I mean, the sole reason why my grandfather was able to stay at the facility was due to his insurance. But when I tried to also get my grandmother inside the facility as well, she was denied because her insurance was different. She didn't have the typical Medicaid that my grandfather had. Medicare or Medicaid, one of the two.
Medicare,
Yeah,
probably Medicare. There are
Um,
resources
but
out there. Clarissa is an excellent resource person.
I just like Alexa put something in the chat, so I just put it in the chat. She put nancyslist.org for financial assistance. So like if you click on the link, Davon, on that
Yeah.
one?
So let me say something about Nancy's list. So Nancy Novak, we know very well. She actually lives in Austin, but I know her from we lived in the same town in California, and she has aggregated a list of resources for all kinds of different things. Um, but some of it is for financial assistance. And there's just a whole bunch of different links for different situations, and a bunch of them may not be appropriate. But it's definitely worth going through and seeing if there's anything there. And Devon, another thing I could definitely do, but just let me know, or you can ask Alexa. I put Alexa's, Devon, you know how to use the chat window, right? It's the little bubble in the
Yeah.
top right-hand corner. Yeah. So
Now that I'm thinking
Alexa's
about it,
in.
what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna drop my phone number into the chat. If any of you could just feel free to contact the number at any time with any links, text messages, just anything. Even if you just want to call, feel free to hit me up
Right.
at any time.
But I want you to reach out to Alexa tomorrow, and Alexa can connect you to Nancy herself. And maybe Nancy knows, because Nancy will know the lists better. She'll know who's who. And we can go or ask Nancy, can Nancy help? But I think there may be resources there. I think that we've just got to do, it may be that the way the case manager was looking at it is how do we get this person back to uh, to Jersey, but maybe we've got to switch things around and say, no, we don't want to go back to Jersey because the care isn't good. What can we do to keep your grandparents in Houston? And to look at it from that side, and what is available to keep your grandparents in Houston. And again, Milton's point is a huge one. Who can your family send down to help you? How do your grandparents live in a 1 bedroom, a 2 bedroom, a 3 bedroom?
So my grandparents live in a two-bedroom household, but they have a third room, which is their office. The house that they live in is actually another concern as to why we want them to move.
Okay.
The house is one of those generational houses. It was actually the house that my great grandfather used to live in. He's still alive, by the way. Just want to throw that out there as another flex. But my great grandfather, he moved out and he basically went back to Jersey. My current grandparents, my grandfather, my grandmother, they then moved into that house and lived there ever since. The house is as old as dust, and a big reason as to why we wanted to get them out was just because that house is basically falling apart. There's
Yeah.
so much going on, and there's so many different generational, knickknacks,
Yeah.
items, stuff that it just became overwhelming to the point to
Yeah.
where me and my girlfriend undertook the task of trying to clean up, toss, box up whatever it is that we could. But even after the cleaning, the getting rid of stuff, the I don't know if you guys remember the winter storm that came by a little while ago. Um, the roof caved in. The
Oh,
back side of the house is peeling off. There's
Yeah.
I don't want
Okay.
to say everything that's going on, but
Yeah. I mean,
there's no
it's
okay.
just the fact that you're just not going to be able to duplicate Dr. Masul. You cannot do it. And I'm just scared that you're going to get back up there and there's going to be an issue with this disease and you are not going to have access to Dr. Masul. And then you're going to, then what are you going to do? And it's so important. And I think you've got to explain to the family, this is a very rare cancer. And we've got to figure out a solution that is Houston based or close to Houston
that is
based.
a concern that I've also brought up to my grandfather as well. Uh, some of his doctors and practitioners, although they did speak their concerns, green lighted our decision. Uh, as I mentioned before, a lot of what my grandfather's health is basically tied to where my grandmother is at right now. So
Yeah.
grandfather and grandmother,
You know,
they're
it's
tied
hard
together.
for the
If
docs
God,
because it's very hard for the docs because Dr. Masoul, I don't know Dr. Tanir. I have a better feel for Dr. Masoul. And he's very smart, but he's also a modest guy. He's not a big ego guy. And when you're not a big ego doc, you're not the one that says, well, you've got to stay here because I'm here. And that's not the sort of thing that Dr. Masoul says. He does, you know,
no,
he's not. But the fact is, we're telling you, he and Dr. Tanir are the two best doctors in the country. And it's even more than that. As Milton said, a lot of the other doctors, they don't even know how to deal with RMC. And if they do know how to deal with RMC, the best way they can deal with it is collaborate with the people at MD Anderson. And a lot of them don't want to do it. I mean, Dr. Anna's on the phone. She herself is a patient, and she's been having the issues of how does she get her doctor to work with the doctor in Houston. I mean, it's huge. I mean, she's a doctor herself, and she's still having difficulty getting her doctors to work with the doctor in Houston. So, if it were me, I would not want to leave Dr. Masoul's care. And if I were to move away, it would only be on the condition that Dr. Masoul would be intimately involved in the treatment. So you know, the only other solution is to find a doc in the New Jersey area before you get there who's willing to work closely with Dr. Masoul, or to say to Dr. Masoul, who could we use if we had to go to Jersey? Who do you work with there? Who can we go that you have a good working relationship with there?
So I would
That should
say
be.
I
Go
I
ahead.
would say Carlos's Dr. Molina would be a good one, but I'm just saying you're still going to New York City in Manhattan, so it's not the most comfortable place. But I'm
Well,
saying if you had to,
I would say that in Jersey, if you're going to be around the East Orange area, is that correct, Avon? Avon, around,
no. I have roots in East Orange, but my grandparents would move in a close vicinity to some of my aunts and uncles, who stay sort of near the Colonia area,
all
or
right,
just
so
in the.
Colonia, that's not far from Hackensack, correct?
I don't know. I don't
It's,
have
it's
roots in
not, well,
Jersey. I
it's
don't
North
know.
Jersey. They live in North Jersey.
Okay.
Okay, so then you still had this two, which I was going to reach out to, look out, see what they could start something. But while you're there in Texas, reach out to, um, I guess, Hackensack Hospital, and I think I could get back with you because they sent me literature. They have a new facility, a cancer treatment center. I think they're it's in I think it's Newark, Beth Israel, but it might be in New Brunswick. But if they're um, I wanted to eventually reach out and see where they were as far as understanding RMC.
But
And then the
Milton,
thing is, yeah,
excuse me for interrupting you, but the guys at Hackensack are not that great. The GU medical oncologists at Hackensack are not that great. I mean, we've got people right now. I had a guy reach out to me today who wants to move his care from Hackensack into the city because he's not happy with his genitourinary medical oncologist, and that's for prostate cancer. Now, you know, if they're not great for prostate cancer, they're gonna be clueless around RMC.
well,
And you know,
Rick, what I was going to say was for him to reach out to them and see if they would communicate with Dr. Masal, not for him to go there blindly and it's finding
well,
out.
you see, I would do it the other way around. I would say to Dr. Masal, who do you work with in Jersey? In other words, start with Dr. Masal and ask him if you want to go to Jersey, who does he have a good working relationship with in North Jersey?
Yeah, that would work just as
Then
well. Yeah, I agree.
and then you don't have to be explaining to the people at Hackensack what RMC is.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Mhm.
Which could
the
happen. Which could happen.
the idea that I've discussed with my aunts and relatives in Jersey was that my mother works for MD Anderson. She does IT tech work.
Okay.
But the discussion that I'm having with my relatives out back east is that we're going to gather all the information about my pop's medical records along with my Mimi's and try to work as best as we can hand in hand with the MD Anderson that is in Jersey. I did have to swallow that pill that the level of care that they'd receive would be less than the one that they'd receive down here.
Okay.
Me and my family, we kind of a few weeks ago, my pop, my grandmother, few aunts and uncles that are in Texas, we all came around and we had a Zoom meeting with the rest of my family inside at East Orange, or not East Orange, but up east. And we kind of all just said how we were feeling. We weighed out the pros and the cons of like staying in Texas or moving to Jersey. And although not discrediting MD Anderson whatsoever, I'm very much aware of just exactly how not notorious, but just exactly how well acclaimed they are in terms of dealing with this form of RMC. Sentimental wise, my pop knows that they need to go to Jersey. Like I said previously inside the chat, a lot of my pop's health is tied along with my grandmother's health. The fact that they're currently living in the conditions that they are right now, it breaks his heart. You know, it breaks his spirit.
Hmm.
Big reason as to why he wants to go to New Jersey. And this is a bit of a personal thing, but while my pop was inside the hospital and he wasn't sure whether or not he was going to make it, my Mimi flat out told me, you know, if your grandfather doesn't make it, I'm going to go shortly behind him. It's it's a terrifying thought because physically my grandmother is in outstanding shape. My grandmother is nowhere near on the same level that like my pop is in terms of how sick he is, but she's going to deteriorate herself at a rate that's tantamount to suicide. And if that were to happen, if something were to happen to my pop, where God forbid, but he were to pass away, I've talked with my pop and he would rather that if something were to happen, she's in an environment where she's surrounded by family, surrounded by people, and just has support, even if he is gone. As opposed to if they stayed in Texas, it's basically just me and her. It's a hard decision that we had to land on because once again, my grandfather is putting my grandmother's health over his own, but it's his wishes, and the best that I can do is just support him in in his endeavors and what he wants. I'll
Guys,
do my
I've got
best.
to run over to the other meeting, but this has been a fantastic group again, as always. And
Hmm.
I'll leave you. It can go along as long as you want, but I really encourage you to, Devon, to use these connections here. These people are fantastic, and also to use Alexa. So I'll see you guys
Absolutely,
soon.
and thank you so much. It was nice reading you. It was nice meeting you.
Yeah.
Pleasure. Bye.
Okay.
Okay, you guys, I think we've been going a couple hours now.
Yeah.
Yvonne, we would definitely get in contact with you. I definitely know I can understand what, the predicament, and they've obviously have made up their minds, so you just have to support what they want to do. But I will definitely touch base with you, and you have my number
Please
as
do.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you else have seen the number that I placed in the chat, but a lot of you talked about the different resources that I could go look up in order to assist my grandparents. I'm willing
Right.
to try anything, so please contact me at that number at any time. If you'd rather get my email, I can drop that inside the chat real quick as well. Um, just see if I could
Yeah.
drop everyone.
Yeah. No. I just want to say, Davon, I can understand what you mean by breaking down the house because one of the things is um, with my son, he spent the last month of his life in the hospital. He didn't come out, but um, As soon as he went in, I forgot the name of the storm that came and flooded my basement. So I had no hot water, no furnace, no heat, but it wasn't cold, but I had no hot water. My basement was flooded. So here it is. My child is saying he wants to come home, and I can't take him home because there was nothing. I couldn't take care of him. So personally, when you say that how your grandparents, the generational home is deteriorating, that's a big factor because still, in spite of all the treatments, everyone's saying, okay, well, I'm not going to knock ND Anderson. I haven't been there, but at the end of the day, it's the quality of life and how they sustain themselves. And one of the things that I did not pull my son from the hospital, although in my heart of hearts, I knew things weren't going good, is that I couldn't have him. I really said this to myself, um, especially what was going on in Texas with the storms and all that. I didn't want him passing in a strange place. He had to be around me and his family and his friends, close enough, and it did make a difference. Because it reached a point where I said we was already jumped out of the plane without a parachute, and here we are on this ride, praying for the best. And it reached a point where I knew that the doctors had totally screwed him up. And at that point, it was a matter of working as best I can with another doctor, because my doctor just abandoned us when it really mattered. But after he had messed up, he left. But at the end of it, I made a conscious decision as a parent that I wanted my son close to his family and friends. And it seems to me, although you brought up this scenario, you have been thinking through things, and this is it's your thought process is good. You did all the homework and everything, and you made a decision. And I'm not one to persuade you from you're correct. And NDMs Anderson might be good from a medical standpoint, but at the same time, there's more to it, more to life than just that. Um, and I think you understand that, your grandfather understand that, your grandmother understand that, as far as how they want to live their lives, the remaining part of their life. So you'll find the answers, but you have to do what's best for yourself and your grandparents, and for you. At the end of the day, it's not our call. It's you're gonna make the decision that you feel best for them, and that's how it's gonna go. That's pretty much all I gotta say about it.
It's well
Thank
said,
you. Yeah.
Milton. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. I think this is it. I'm going to stop the recording. Any other questions or concerns?
No, I'm good.
Have a
Well,
great
I'm
night.
glad that I was able to meet all of you today. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it's been a pleasure. I'm glad Milton was on too. He's been a beacon of
Yeah.
sunshine.
It's
Oh,
been.
Milton, you're awesome. Wow, you're awesome, Milton.
I haven't been back. You just picked the right time. I haven't been back since September when Micah passed. So sad. Last time I was here was August. So it's the first time I've been back. So right timing.
Yeah.